Everybody needs good neighbors. Just a friendly wave each morning helps to make a better day. Neighbors need to get to know each other. Next door is only a footstep away. Neighbors, everybody needs good neighbors with a little understanding. You can find the perfect blend. Neighbors should be there for one another. That's when good neighbors become good friends.
Monday night on BBC1 with Wogan, Geraldine McEwen and Peggy Lee. Then new comedy from America at 7:35 with Major Dad.
That man has no hair.
Nice kids. You ever whack them?
At 8, Blankety Blank with another fun-packed panel. Then at 8:30, Survivors, a new series looking at wildlife from the animals' point of view.
Wolves are extremely sociable, living and hunting in close family groups, held together by discipline and affection.
At 9:30, Panorama tells the story of the Romanian Revolution with exclusive and unshown footage of the vicious battles that toppled Ceausescu. At 10:10, see for yourself how the BBC works in your region. Then Crockett and Tubbs are back in...
Down there in Chile, this might give you a license to kill. Here in Miami, it don't mean squat.
Monday night on BBC1.
From Newsham South East tonight, a hospital closes its intensive care unit after 6 babies died. Rover has denied that up to half the jobs at Cowley could go, and the Kent bowlers on their way to the Commonwealth Games. That's all in Newsham South East at 6:30.
This is BBC1.
The 6 o'clock news from the BBC with Peter Sissons and Jill Dando.
Good evening. The headlines at 6 o'clock. The government and the health service unions say they're both ready for new talks to try to settle the ambulance dispute. But tonight the health department, the NHS, ruled out talks unless there was evidence that the unions had substantially changed their position. The wife of Nelson Mandela says he could be free within weeks. The Home Secretary has sent new evidence on behalf of the Birmingham Six convicted of pub bombings 15 years ago. 6 babies die in a hospital intensive care ward. Doctors are trying to discover what killed them. And Terry Thomas, the comic king of the cads, dies at the age of 78. Downing Street has made it clear that no more money will be given to the National Health Service to improve the pay offer, but said tonight that extra pay might be found from inside the NHS existing budget. And the chief union negotiator in the ambulance dispute, Roger Poole, has written to the Health Service asking for immediate new talks. He says he's prepared to be flexible. Tonight, the Health Service chief, the chief executive, Duncan Nicol, ruled out more talks at the moment. He repeated that he wanted an indication that the union's position had changed substantially before any talks could take place, although he welcomed Mr. Poole's offer of flexibility. The unions had been asking for more than 11% and a formal annual system of awarding pay. The government has offered 9% over 18 months. At the weekend, the Health Secretary Kenneth Clarke was reported as having told journalists at a private briefing that more cash may be made available, though this was later denied by the Health Department. Our health correspondent, Sarah Barclay.
Mr Clark arrived at the Department of Health this morning with a clear message. He said there was no more money available for the ambulance workers, despite Friday's briefing to political journalists. He claims giving ambulance staff more money would mean less for patient services. The latest moves come 7.5 months after the 6.5% pay offer was rejected by the unions. After a ballot, an overtime ban was imposed. A week later, talks broke down, with management rejecting arbitration. And by the end of the month, ambulance controllers and officers voted to join the dispute. In October, some London crews were suspended and police were drafted in to help answer emergency calls. Shortly afterwards, the army was brought in to help run the capital's emergency service. Throughout the dispute, ambulance staff have continued reporting for work, even though they've been suspended without pay. In November, NHS managers made a revised offer, 9% over 18 months, plus extra cash for trained paramedics. The unions rejected the deal and pressed on with their demand for an 11.4% pay rise over 12 months and an annual pay award system like but not identical to that of the firemen. It's that formula which remains the sticking point in the dispute. Even though the unions are prepared to accept less money, they say they won't settle without a firm commitment from the government to a pay formula which they say would rule out the need for industrial action in the future.
You see, it would be hopeless, wouldn't it, if we were to agree a settlement of this year's pay claim, only to be plunged into this turmoil again next year because ambulance staff were treated unfairly next year. And so it's in the government's interest, as well as ours, to sit down and agree how the pay of ambulance staff can be put onto a firm footing and a firm basis so that industrial action doesn't become necessary again in the future.
Despite 4 months of industrial action, ambulance crews seem to be firmly behind their negotiators.
It's the pay formula which is the vital factor of this matter. This is something we've wanted for years. It'll stop any disputes that we've had this year, or last year as well, carrying on and ever having one again.
We've got 95% of the public support behind us, and as long as we've got the public support and the public know we're doing right, then we will stay out for as long as it takes.
But while Mr Clark says there'll be no extra cash to pay the ambulance workers, there may be more from within the existing health service budget. And it's now clear that both Mr Clark and the unions are facing increasing pressure to reach a compromise.
Downing Street has said that Kenneth Clarke has full cabinet backing for his handling of the dispute. But a number of Conservative backbenchers are threatening a revolt unless urgent steps are taken to resolve the 17-week-old dispute. Our political correspondent Robert Orchard reports.
The political pressure inside the Tory party for a settlement in the ambulance dispute was stepped up as MPs returned to Westminster today. Despite recriminations over what Mr Clarke did or didn't say to journalists at the weekend, the Prime Minister wouldn't comment on the government's stance during a visit to Warwick University. But Downing Street sources have welcomed the union's latest conciliatory comments as a positive step, while stressing there's no new money on offer. And Kenneth Clarke's abrasive style in the ambulance dispute is leading to increasing criticism from some backbench Tory MPs.
It reminds me very much of a John Cleese training film on the how not to do it side of the coin. And I think everyone who is a trainee in industrial relations should now be given a video of all the last 4 months' activities and made to watch it so they would never make the same mistakes when they were handling industrial relations matters.
And one Tory says Mr Clarke should now accept the union's olive branch or face the consequences.
There's a major debate on Thursday. The original offer was not sufficient. Now that the unions are moving and saying quite clearly they are prepared to reconsider their position, there must be an appropriate response by the government. If there isn't that response, then I think there's a very real chance that quite a number of Conservative backbenchers will withhold their votes.
But the Tory chairman claims the party is united behind Mr Clarke, and he dismisses as rubbish claims that he and other cabinet ministers haven't given their full support.
I find there's a ready acceptance of the case that we cannot give in to inflationary wage settlements in double figures. Because if we do, then that's weakening the fight against inflation. You can say goodbye to lower interest rates and lower mortgage rates. And so I find very strong support for Ken Clarke's view, and there is 100% support for him from the Cabinet and the Government.
But the Government is making clear tonight that there could be an increased offer for the ambulance crews if they drop their demand for a pay formula linking them to other emergency services and are willing to accept substantially less than 11%. The greater the Tory backbench pressure, the more likely it is that Kenneth Clarke will find the extra money. but it's being stressed that any increase must come out of existing NHS resources, which could mean less money available for patient care.
There's been the clearest sign yet from South Africa that the jailed black nationalist leader, Nelson Mandela, could be freed soon. His wife, Winnie Mandela, visited him today and said that for the first time they'd discussed arrangements for his release. She indicated that it could be just a matter of weeks. Mr. Mandela's freedom is a key condition set by the leaders of the African National Congress for entering into discussions on reforms with the government.
After 27 years visiting Nelson Mandela in prison, today, unusually, his wife Winnie looked happy as she came out, herself convinced the ANC leader will finally be freed, and soon. During 3 hours together, for the first time, Nelson Mandela and his wife discussed arrangements for his release. With her lawyer beside her, Mrs. Mandela said she now believes freedom could come in weeks rather than months.
There's really not much I can discuss. Suffice to say, it is the first time that he has called us to discuss preliminary arrangements to discuss preparations for his release.
Mrs. Mandela didn't want to speculate exactly when her 71-year-old husband might be free. They've been kept apart for all but 4 years, since they were married in 1958. Winnie Mandela was in court in Pretoria when her husband and other ANC leaders were sentenced to life imprisonment, convicted of trying to overthrow white minority rule. But more than a quarter of a century later, now that President de Klerk is himself publicly committed to ending white minority rule, he has no choice but to free Nelson Mandela. Mr. de Klerk and his ministers are facing the fact no other credible black leader will even consider coming to the negotiating table as long as Mr. Mandela remains a prisoner, the single most important figure in black politics. Dr. David Owen, leader of the SDP, had a private meeting with President de Klerk in Pretoria this afternoon. The former Foreign Secretary came away encouraged.
I think with the new president there is a chance, I wouldn't put it higher than that, but a real chance of serious, proper negotiations.
Did you get the impression that the government has decided on a date for Mr. Mandela's release?
No, not quite yet. I'm sure he's coming out and they know it's going to be soon, but the exact timing, I think, they're going to await on events.
Travelling home, Winnie Mandela happily stopped to give her autograph, promising South Africa will soon be free. And at home in Soweto, Mrs. Mandela is starting to prepare the house for Nelson Mandela's return.
Of course, it is natural for the wife and children to make preparations for the return of the head of the family.
And everyone in South Africa now believes that day will come soon. James Robbins, BBC News, South Africa.
The Home Secretary, David Waddington, has confirmed that he's considering what's said to be new evidence in the case of the Birmingham Six. The six were convicted in 1975 for their involvement in the pub bombings in which 21 people died. Mr. Waddington made the announcement during his first meeting with the Irish Foreign Minister, Gerry Collins.
Lawyers for the Birmingham Six had little to say today about the evidence they delivered to the Home Office just before Christmas. But the Home Secretary, David Waddington, has agreed to look at the material, which his officials described as substantial, lengthy, complicated and detailed. It was just over 15 years ago that 2 bombs exploded at public houses in the centre of Birmingham. 21 people were killed and 162 were injured. 6 Irishmen were convicted on the basis of confessions they claimed had been beaten out of them. 3 years ago, the Court of Appeal was asked to look at new evidence. But the Lord Chief Justice, Lord Lane, said he was convinced the jury had been right to convict them. The Irish Foreign Minister, Gerry Collins, discussed the case with Mr. Waddington when he visited the Home Office this morning.
And now that the new evidence has been submitted by the legal advisors to the group, Mr. Waddington has assured me today that this